So I'm Maddie Kelly. I'm the head distiller at 2 Bar Spirits. We're a distillery right in the heart of Seattle, Washington. We're the first craft distillery to make bourbon in Seattle. The 2 Bar name comes from a ranch in Texas where our founder Nathan grew up, a ranch that's been run by his family for 6 generations now, since the late 1800s. And legend has it during Prohibition, they made a little bit of moonshine on the ranch back then. So Nathan grew up with those stories really in his blood and moved to Seattle, but decided he wanted to keep family tradition alive and start making some whiskey. And here we are at the 2 Bar Distillery in Seattle. We're a very traditional distillery. We make everything from scratch, which really brings in the ethos of the ranch, the hard work that you put in every single day. We start by milling 1,000 pounds of grain every single morning, and that sort of hard work is the exact spirit of the 2 Bar Ranch. I became the head distiller kind of by chance. I have a chemistry background, and I've always been interested in food science. So I showed up here kind of on a lark, just curious about the distilling process, and asked Nathan if I could volunteer about 6.5 years ago now. And then I never left. He couldn't get rid of me. It is a male-dominated field, but you know, mostly the community has been very welcoming. So I'm from Seattle, grew up in the city and have lived here my whole life. And it's an awesome city to be producing whiskey in because the local culture around here, people love craft. They love things that have a story behind them and were made by hand in the city. So there's a lot of support for local makers in the city, which has been awesome. One of the unique things about 2 Bar is we are an entirely grain to glass distillery, which means we start the morning by milling grain and we finish the process through aging and bottling on site. Out of over 20 distilleries in the city of Seattle, only 2 distilleries are entirely grain to glass. So it's actually pretty unique even within craft distilleries. Our bourbon does differ from other bourbons around the country quite a bit. In Seattle, we have this huge amount of local breweries, which means we have great malt available to us that's local, grown in Washington. So our bourbon is heavily malted. Bourbon, of course, has to be majority corn, but we have a lot of malt in that minority, 49%. And then our process differs quite a bit from other bourbon production. We lauter our mash, so that means that we're fermenting off of the grain. A lot of bourbon is made where you pump the grain into your fermenter with all the liquid, and then you add the yeast. So ours, we separate the liquid from the grain. The lautering is a process you'll see more commonly in Scotland and less commonly in the United States. We focus on only making whiskey here and only a couple of whiskeys. We want to do what we do very well. So we make a moonshine, which is an unaged whiskey, and that really harkens back to the history of the ranch of moonshining during Prohibition. And that's a fun whiskey. It's really good in cocktails. It's very versatile. But what we really focus on more than anything is our bourbon. Focusing on just our couple of whiskeys means that our bourbon especially has gotten better over time. We're able to not only get the quality really pinned down on the production side, but we're able to age each batch a little bit longer. And so we're really seeing the results of that. The whiskey is very well balanced at this point, and we're starting to see some recognition in the form of awards and a lot of good reviews. So that's been great to get that support. Sign up to RackHouse Whiskey Club if you want to try 2 Bar bourbon and moonshine.